Hey friends, welcome back to Six Hearts on Six Acres. We are here in week 4 of the Pantry Challenge. This is being hosted by Jessica at Three Rivers Homestead, and we are coming near to the end of this challenge. I'm going to be honest with you. We still have a very full pantry and still have very full freezers, even though we have used jar after jar after jar. And we've done a good job of using all of our veggie stash from our freezers as well. We could easily do this pantry challenge for another several months if the only factor was relying on what we have. But we all are ready for some fresh vegetables in this family. So January will be the end of our pantry challenge. That doesn't mean we're going to stop using all of those foods that we've worked so hard to preserve. Those foods are still a main part of the way that we feed ourselves, but I am looking forward to going to the store and picking up some lettuces and some fresh veggies to add into our meals as well. The kids requested breakfast for dinner this night, and I am always up for that. It's usually quick and easy. I wanted to do something a little bit extra tonight and make some homemade sourdough biscuits. So we decided to do steak and eggs and biscuits for dinner. These sourdough biscuits were so quick and easy to make. They were buttery and flaky, and they tasted really good with some butter and jam, and also just as a savory option. Either way, they were perfect. I will make sure and put this recipe in the description box below if you want to make these recipes as well, so you'll have easy access to them. Anytime that I make steak, I like to make a chimichurri sauce to go over it. My brother-in-law gave me this chimichurri seasoning that you just mix with vinegar and oil, and I love to use that, but I wanted to fancy it up a little bit and use up some of the avocados that I had bought that were just perfectly ripe. And so tonight we went with an avocado chimichurri. All it is an avocado, as much chimichurri seasoning as you would like. That is just a mixture of dried herbs, and I think it has some dried peppers in there as well. Then you mix in a little bit of vinegar and some oil and just mash it until you have a pretty fine consistency, and it just really escalates your steak and adds another level of flavor to it. Time to fry up some quick eggs to go with this meal. I am not the best fried egg maker. All of my kids like them different ways, whether the yolk is runny or the yolk is solid. I'm kind of an over medium kind of girl myself, but when I do them, you get what you get. Sometimes you're going to end up with a runny yolk, and sometimes you're going to end up with a hard yolk. And I just, especially when you're cooking for lots of people at once, I am not the best egg cook. And let me tell you, I am so ready for our chickens to start laying again. We have not had a decent amount of fresh eggs in several months. Our chickens went through a hard molt this fall, and they still are not laying consistently. We're getting usually like one egg every other day or so, which is a treat, but it's definitely not enough to feed my family, and I am having to purchase from the store. So last week, I showed you guys this hot fudge pudding cake. I made it for my mother-in-law's birthday, and I told you that it's my husband's favorite. He requested this cake again this week. I went and just did a single batch instead of a double batch, and I didn't really show you all of it because, like I said, we walked through it last week. But I will put the recipe in the description again. This is something that's super fast and easy to make, and it's such a good wintertime treat because it is hot. But I did tell him after this batch he is cut off for a while. I didn't want to make it again. In last week's video, you guys saw me make homemade yogurt, and I decided to turn this batch into those Danimals smoothies that kids absolutely love. I very rarely buy them because they're so stinking expensive and they're loaded with garbage ingredients. But when you make them on your own, they are cheap and fast and easy. All I put in these was that homemade yogurt, which all it has in it is sweetened condensed milk, Fairlife milk, and a little spoon of yogurt. Anyways, so just put that into your food processor, and I added in a smoothie mix that had figs and spinach and strawberries. I added in some bananas and then some milk to make it a smoothie consistency. Put these in little half-pint jars in my fridge, and my kids absolutely loved these. And look at me go. I finally remembered to save back some yogurt so I could culture my next batch without having to buy yogurt. When you make homemade yogurt, you do have to have that bacteria added in, and so that is the best way to do that, is just to save back a couple tablespoons from every batch to be able to throw in. Here I am getting Corey a bowl of this cake that he absolutely loves. Look how, this is obviously fresh out of the oven. Look how runny that hot fudge is. This dessert is such a rich, delicious treat. This is the next day after I've gotten off work, and I decided I was going to smoke a whole chicken. Now, if you've done this before the spatchcock way, you're probably laughing at me. I feel like I do this every single time. I don't know chicken anatomy very well, obviously, but I cut through the breastbone instead of the backbone. It still worked. It still grilled up just fine, no problem, but I did cut a section of the breast meat out that I didn't mean to. Olivia wanted another batch of these chocolate chip muffins. Again, this is the same recipe that I've showed you before. I will include it in the description again as well. She just got those baked up while that chicken was smoking. I love it when my kids ask to do a cooking project in the kitchen, and very rarely will I ever turn them no. Cooking is something that I absolutely love to do. It is a stress reliever for me, and I love that I am passing on that same skill to my kids. To go with this chicken for dinner tonight, I just threw together some green beans, and then I did a French onion soup rice. I seasoned this with that French onion soup mix we threw together at Christmas time, and it turned out so good. I am a big rice fan. Like, I could eat rice with every meal and never get tired of it. But my family does need it seasoned differently to enjoy it frequently, and this was a new way for us, and we all really liked it. Your chicken is done when its internal temperature is 165 degrees, and this bird looks absolutely beautiful. While I'm working on dinner tonight, the kids are doing a diamond painting craft that they got in their stocking. It's pretty much always craft night around here, and I love that, especially when Corey gets in there and works with them. Sweet memories are always being made. Like I said, I cut out the wrong side of the chicken, so I'm not going to show myself trying to get this chicken cut up. It was a little bit more difficult because I did it the wrong way. If you do this at home, cut out the backbone, not the breastbone. But I got that all cut up fairly cleanly, and then just made everybody's plate. Like I said, we served this with rice and green beans and a jar of my dill carrot pickles. They are so crunchy and so good. I feel like there's not a ton of freshness that you can add to your meals when you're doing a pantry challenge like this. Obviously, we're eating vegetables, but they're cooked, they're soft. So adding something like a carrot pickle is a good way to add some crunch and just some freshness into your meal and some color to your plate. When we were finished eating, I went to work getting this chicken completely deboned. I put all of the meat that was left in a container to use for dinner another night, and I took all of the bones and started a batch of chicken broth in my Instant Pot. I just used it as a slow cooker, so like a crock pot, but I put all of the bones in there, and then I put my leftover onion and garlic skins and carrot peels, stuff like that I had been saving in my freezer. And then I put in the breastbone that I had cut out of the chicken before I cooked it. I let this cook for 24 hours on low, and when it was done, it smelled so good. I had a rich, golden, delicious bone broth. I love to do this. It's a way to make sure that you don't have any waste with your chicken, and a way to really stretch your budget. A good high quality organic bone broth is about $7 to $8 per quart. And making it like this with things that most people usually throw away, it's pretty much free. And it tastes so much better. You know exactly what's going into it. And it's just a really great way to stretch that chicken. I got more broth than I realized, so I had to transfer this into a larger bowl. I like my broths to be very clear, so I transferred it all into this bigger bowl, got the rest of the broth out of there, and then I poured it through a flour sack towel. That just catches any little bits of debris from the vegetables and the bones and gives you a really beautiful, clear broth to be able to use. I am going to use part of this broth for dinner tonight. We are going to make a chicken enchilada soup, and it's going to be perfect for that. And the rest of it is going to go into a jar in my fridge to just sit there until it is ready to use the next time. It'll be good for up to a week. Bone broths are also really easy to can if you want to make a big amount and have them be shelf stable. That is one of the easiest things that you can and have ready to use, and it is a huge money saver. Like I said, tonight we are having chicken enchilada soup. You see me opening up here a can of this was a new recipe for me last year, and it is one of my most favorite things on my pantry shelf. It tastes amazing. It has so much flavor. So I am just adding that, some black beans, the little bit of leftover rice that we had from dinner last night, and also the leftover chicken that I picked off of those bones before we made the broth. I didn't have a ton left. A family of 6 can really eat through a whole chicken pretty quickly, so it wouldn't have been enough for another meal of just chicken, but it was the perfect amount to make a soup. I also went in with the last of this bag of frozen corn, and then this was a bag of shredded squash that we made together this summer from the garden, and we vacuum sealed it and froze it. I have a daughter who says that she hates squash and zucchini. She was not watching me cook this night, and she didn't even notice it was in there. It absolutely just melted into the soup, but added a huge amount of vitamins and nutrition, and it was so good to have in there. That enchilada sauce was already very well seasoned, but I didn't add any seasoning or sodium to the broth, so I seasoned this with some of that homemade taco seasoning that we made together. And then to make it just a little bit creamy, I added a tiny amount of heavy cream, and it just made this soup perfectly delicious and creamy and smooth. This is a recipe that I am definitely going to make again, and when I say that, I don't take it lightly. I am not one who makes recipes well, let me go back on that. So I do make recipes over and over, things like baked items. I usually find a recipe that I love and keep it. But as far as dinner goes, I'm one who really just throws things together, and I don't tend to make things over and over. But I will be sure to write this recipe down because everybody loved it. I had some sourdough discard to use up, and my kids wanted a sweet treat after dinner, so I decided to mix together some sourdough chocolate chip cookies. If you saw me looking at that dough funny and trying to figure out what is going on, it was pretty dry, and I realized, wait a minute, this is supposed to be a sourdough recipe, and I completely forgot to add the discard. So I got that added in there and mixed it all up, added those chocolate chips, and then this went into the fridge for a couple hours before it was ready to bake. I served this enchilada soup topped with some cheese and avocado. It would have been really good with a little bit of sour cream as well, but that's not something that we had, and it wasn't something that I was going to use any of my very small budget for the month to purchase. So this was perfect as is. I will say it was a little bit spicy. I think I added a little bit too much taco seasoning, but the avocado really helped to balance that out, and everybody was still able to eat it and loved it. It is another night, another dinner. I feel like I didn't do a ton of cooking actually this week because a lot of the meals that I made were meals that we were able to have for leftovers, and this one was the same way as well. This night I made a chili mac. If you've never had that before or never heard of that, it is a combination of chili and macaroni and cheese. It is always such a big hit with the kids, and it makes tons, so it was perfect to have leftover for lunches, and also we even had a second dinner of this. What I'm opening right now is that chili starter. That is canned tomatoes and peppers and seasoning and onions and garlic all in one mixture, ready to go. Just you have to add beans and meat to it. Having this on my pantry shelf has been such a huge time saver for me this year. My kids absolutely love to eat raw noodles, so they were so excited when I spilled some, and then everybody was asking for noodles while I was cooking. This cracks me up. Raw noodles are definitely not appetizing to me, but it's something they always ask for when I am cooking with them.
I don't want bloody cheese. And I don't want to cut your finger off.
Avery is shredding our cheese for the night. I figured her arm would get so tired, but she actually did the whole rest of that block by herself. You could hear her brother and sister kind of teasing her, but she is a great help in the kitchen. Like I said, anytime my kids want to be involved, I absolutely let them unless I'm in a huge time crunch for some reason. Cooking and baking together is absolutely one of my favorite ways to spend time with my kids. And then here we are to Sunday afternoon. On Sunday, we actually don't eat dinner, but we eat a big lunch. And so this is Sunday after church. Yesterday, I was out of town and my daughter Olivia mixed together my sourdough and made what was going to be a loaf for me. We decided to leave that out and let it bulk ferment for extra long so that we could make a quick focaccia. And it turned out good, but I think I still need a little bit more practice because it was not quite as light and fluffy as I would have liked, but the flavor was amazing. I think I've been on a hit with my smoker this week because I have used it several times, but we decided to do some grilled chicken. And I topped this grilled chicken with some of our homemade peach barbecue sauce that we made this summer. It was so good. And there is that mac and cheese Olivia's just been dying to have. I finally gave in and let her make some. We make this in our Instant Pot because it's super quick and easy. All you have to do is put in as much pasta as you would like. Just barely cover that with water and then cook it on high pressure for 5 minutes. We served this with some broccoli. Like I said, we are missing our fresh veggies around here. Me specifically, I love vegetables. So I just got some of that steamed up. And then this is that peach barbecue sauce I was telling you about. Look how beautiful it is. It's the prettiest golden color. It has peaches and onions and garlic and peppers and sugar, and I can't remember if it had tomatoes or not in it. I'm going to have to go back and look at the recipe, but either way is absolutely delicious, and it creates like this perfect like caramelized coating on the chicken when you use it on a grill. Olivia's noodles are cooked, so she is just going in with some butter and some milk and some salt, a little bit of garlic powder, and then of course a huge handful of cheese, and she just got that all mixed up and it was ready to go. While she finished getting that all mixed together, I started cutting up the focaccia and got the chicken off the grill. I pretty much always either buy my chicken from Aldi's or from Costco. I would really love to raise some meat birds. I haven't quite got my husband talked into that yet, but I am still working on it. If this is something that you do, share all of your tips and tricks below because I have this on my list to learn this year. I really would like to do a fall batch of birds. Not a huge amount, but just enough for us to kind of learn the process, learn how to raise them and harvest them ourselves, and the whole butchering process and the packaging process and the cutting up process. Like, I would like to be able to do all of that. But here we are. We have made it to the end of the week of week number 4 on our pantry challenge. Thank you so much for being here. Make sure to subscribe below, leave me a comment, and I will see you back here next time. Until then, may God bless.